you can be depressed or overwhelmed or, sad. If you step into thinking, these terms right here and now, not sometime in the future, not after all these things change, not after I get my act together, but right now and here, this actual circumstance right now is God loving me.
That
makes a big difference.
That's a rough one.
The concept of prayer, which is very difficult to understand on sort of the raw childish level, which is God is gumball machine, right? You put in your quarter and the gumball comes out, because it's really not about changing God's mind, it's about changing who you are, and thus God naturally responds to you differently because you're not the person that you were before you prayed. I mean, the verb to pray in Hebrew is actually in the reflexive tense, right? Lahit palel. The idea is that it's supposed to be something that acts on you. The prayer is supposed to act on you. It's not supposed to be something where you're attempting to pry an answer out of God, meaning like God does say no, but the idea is that the person he's saying no to might be a different person than the person he says yes to tomorrow, because you change yourself in order to be the person who deserves a different response from God.
It certainly seems to me to be a productive way to consider prayer, and I really do believe that our capacity to think actually emerged out of the domain of prayer, because thought seems to me to have a prayer-like structure. The first is, I have a problem that I need to solve. So that's like an admission of insufficiency. And the next is, the answer could make itself manifest. Now you might say, well, I'll think it up, but that's a pretty sad explanation. It's more like, no, you admit you have a problem, and then you open yourself up to a revelation. And then the revelation makes itself manifest. The thought appears, and it's just often, especially if it's a deep thought and a deep new thought, it strikes you as a surprise, right? It's not like you predicted it. It springs itself on you as if it's something new.
There's a sense, Jordan, when you talk about the veil, God veiling himself, that one could read that as, God's not wanting to show you all of himself. You're not allowed to see it all. But I think in a way that's a mistake. I mean, this is more about the way in which things can actually happen in this mediated sense. You don't feed a baby with a fire hose of milk. When you're cold coming in from the snow or whatever, you don't warm yourself up with a blowtorch. You don't teach a calculus to a 2-year-old. And I think this is related to what I see as the profound tenderness. And there's that sense of the almighty sovereign that could destroy you in a flash, making himself such that you can hear and see. And this reminds me very much the language at certain parts in the New Testament. The hairs of thy head are numbered, and how careful you like the sparrows of the field and the lilies of the valley. The sense that which is highest not only knows us, but makes itself such that with a tenderness we can hear and see and feel and live that.
That's believable if you can think about it very practically. If God is the great animating spirit of mankind at minimum, how would that make itself manifest moment to moment? It would be in the same veiled manner that a very strong man would make himself available to wrestling with a child. It's like you don't unleash your full force, you veil. You only release the amount of force that's necessary in precise proportion to keep the game going. And so it's very realistic, that parcel of the structure of being.
And it's amazing how much changes in life. You can be depressed or overwhelmed or, sad. If you step into thinking, this actual circumstance right now is God loving me. If I can make the move to think, these terms right here and now, not sometime in the future, not after all these things change, not after I get my act together, but right now and here, the highest in what is most determining in all of reality itself is conspiring right here and now to love me.
That
makes a big difference.
That's a rough one.
Does God change? How can he be the same? How can he be in relationship and still not change? I think it's a very subtle way of understanding that this is not God changing, it's not God's personality changing, it's, as it were, our relation to God, our understanding of God becomes, God is progressively revealed to us through the changes, through the actions and the decisions that we undertake. And I think that's a very important point. It preserves God's immutability, maybe his impassibility, his freedom from suffering, but it also explains how we can, as it were, enter into relationship with him.